Welcome to MEMA Aftermarket Top Suppliers Insights, presented by Aftermarket News.
Hello and welcome to the MEMA Aftermarket Suppliers Top Suppliers Insight in partnership with Aftermarket News. I'm Emma Henderson, Managing Editor and Producer for AMN, and I am so excited to introduce you to today's panel. We have Bill Long, President and CEO of MEMA with us, joined by Edgar San Jose, Vice President of the Automotive Aftermarket for Timken, as well as Brett Blauner, National Sales Manager for the Automotive Aftermarket, Light Duty and Heavy Duty for Timken. Thank you all for joining us today. For any organization to last more than 120 years like MEMA has, they must create strong partnerships, truly listen to what their member organizations are saying, and be able to adapt with the times. This is something that MEMA has done masterfully, and Timken has been there for, well, since the beginning. So I wanted to start off with this question. In the year 2025, as we are beginning to see things unfold with some uncertainty, how important are these long-time partnerships in the aftermarket?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. This is, in all my time in the industry, this is my first trip to Babcock Studios. So, and it's great to be with our friends from Timken. And as many might know, but Timken was one of the founding members of MEMA back in 1904. And the partnerships, relationships are vitally important. We're a member-driven, member-based organization, as you know, and the engagement and feedback that we get from our members really helps guide the future. You know, one of our vision for the future is to create a growing, profitable, innovative, and influential supplier community. And we don't do this alone. We do it clearly in partnership with our members. So I would say that that has been the guiding principle and foundation that's allowed us to continue to be relevant to the industry over the 121 years that MEMA's been around. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill, so we've talked about things that have come up for MEMA, and you say you are always doing things with the end in mind. So explain to me, what does that mean?
People that know me quite well know I'm somewhat of a Stephen Covey disciple. And the book's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits is seek first to understand and then also to begin with the end in mind. And as we look at the industry and the challenges that we're facing today, we look at the megatrends and headwinds, strategic shifts, pain points, and really as a trade association, we compartmentalize those to say, how do we advance the business interests of the industry in the wake of those headwinds? And we literally start with the end in mind. How do we provide clarity around, I'll say, the broad range of possibilities, and then platforms for industry dialogue, and then try to create roadmaps, working in collaboration with our members to actually say, how do we get from here to there? And we'll see how well we're doing.
I am curious for you guys, Edgar and Brett, hearing Bill say this, how does that make you feel as an active member organization?
Well, of course, MEMA, one of their core is to listen to suppliers, and what's really important for us is they listen to a broad spectrum of suppliers, take from that, and eventually build an advocacy around that. So they're one voice to the market or to whatever governing body might be. So it's really important, I think, that they take our feedback, and they always have over the years, whether it's us or other suppliers, and really build a one voice advocacy.
Yeah, if I could extend on that, actually, I think it also aligns very well with Timken. As we approach whether it's an investment or trying to go into a different market, we also start with that end in mind, right? What do we want to achieve? And it's a very similar approach.
Absolutely. And I imagine they have to be doing something right for you guys to stick together for over 120 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We started together, and matter of fact, I think that we are the only founding member that's still a member today. So it's been a long road together.
true testament to your relationship, absolutely. Now, MEMA has always made sure that their member organizations are going to be heard, and they believe that's what actually moves the industry forward, and that's been in place since they started on March 2nd, 1904. So, Bill, can you give us some examples of how you platform your members to gain industry insight?
As I touched on just a minute ago, MEMA does create these opportunities, platforms for industry dialogue and change. And Timken and Brett in particular have participated in many of these, where, again, we try to bring clarity around the broad range of possibilities. Today, there's never been, I'll say, greater uncertainty about the future of the industry. And we're all listening to the sound bites in the media. Everybody is kind of an expert, but this doesn't mean Babcock's. But the platforms for industry dialogue allow us really to come forward with fact-based, data-driven research that allows companies like Timken to act with greater assurance and certainty in those steps. So, a shameless plug, we have the MEMA Aftermarket Vision Conference that's coming up next month. We have a Marketing Executive Council. We have several government affairs platforms, a trade working group, a USMCA working group, and so forth. A CEO Executive Council that allows for networking and dialogue, best practices, benchmarking. Really that a trade association is designed to do, to help bring people together to navigate the challenges and the path ahead.
And I'm curious how you guys have seen that helpful and how you've seen it help shape the industry.
So absolutely, from a Timken perspective, we appreciate and we leverage whether it's a forecast or a better understanding around how the market is doing. You mentioned the uncertainty today of everything that is going on, and it also comes out as a sounding board, right? Because we also have experts within the Timken organization that are looking at tariffs, for example, and what does that mean for us? But having somebody like MEMA that would also be able to communicate a message and help us also understand whether we're looking at it the same way and are we getting the same understanding out of it.
And I'll just build on that for a moment. We hold, give or take, about 175 events, platforms for dialogue, every year, whether there's councils that allow members to specifically pick and choose platforms that are important, whether it's a tooling council or back in the day we had one that addressed warranty issues and how does the industry address those kinds of things. But you can imagine trying to provide relevant content and thought leadership around 180 events takes some key coordination, particularly in trying to identify the key pain points that our members have. And when you look at the list of pain points, we're all dealing with supply chain disruption. We've all gone through workforce challenges. We're trying to create a U.S. manufacturing competitiveness globally. We're racing toward new technology and innovation on top of uncertainty. And all those create some very valuable platforms, again, to help members achieve and grow and advance. And our mission at MEMA has been to advance the business interests of our members. And that those inputs, those issues become the guiding principles that we will live every day. We wake up in the morning with a clean white piece of paper and say, how are we going to do this in the wake of these issues?
I would add, Bill, that the things that we share, collaborate with, learn from MEMA and other members is input to maybe long-term strategy. But in addition to that, some of the short-term issues that we face, tariffs is a good example. The organization, MEMA, has done a great job in communicating what's going on with tariffs. There's a communication going out almost daily on what's going on with tariffs. So it's not only long-term strategy, things that we take in consideration, but also the short-term things that we face day to day.
I would imagine it's probably helpful to have the collective as well, because then you don't feel as alone when you're facing some of these issues. You know, there's all these other member organizations going through the same thing.
And we do a supplier barometer each quarter that gets that feedback. So it is a nice benchmarking yardstick. How do you feel about, what's your outlook for the industry for the next 3 months? How has it changed over the past 6 months? How are these issues impacting your business? And just to have that sympathy or inspiration that comes from that, it helps suppliers calibrate where they are with the broader industry.
You know, Bill, you made reference to vision, and I would say, from my perspective, probably one of the hallmarks of MEMA. You have guest speakers, you've got customers come in and you talk about strategic long-term trends. You have independent analysts come in and talk about what's going on with some of the key indicators for the aftermarket. So vision is something that we get a lot of value. In addition to that, it enables you to network with other suppliers. So it's vision is something that we take full advantage of.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that. You know, you look at it and you get that perspective from all sorts of different viewpoints within the industry. So I agree, it's very, very valuable.
One thing a trade association is able to do is we can meet with your customers. We do a segmented vision that has started really back when I joined MEMA 12 years ago, what we refer to as talk from the top. Mm-hmm. And that access and that dialogue really allows a customer to share with us how they really feel about suppliers without being confrontational. And then we can share that with the supplier community on, here's some things that we need to get better at. And vice versa, it gives us an open dialogue of trust and a strong relationship with channel partners to be your voice and say, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because here's some things that are on the minds of suppliers. And I think MEMA has done a nice job over its history of being a trusted, respected platform within the industry, both suppliers to commercial vehicle and light vehicle. I know Timken participates in both those segments, as well as domestically and internationally.
Absolutely. And you mentioned history. So MEMA's been around for going on 121 years. Timken celebrated 125 years in the industry and was a founding member of MEMA, as we've mentioned. So I'm curious, from your guys' perspective, talk a little bit about the history of you guys actually working together.
So as you mentioned, Timken has been around for 125 years. Our founder, Henry Timken, patented the tapered roller bearing in 1898, and shortly after that, he founded the Timken Roller Bearing and Axle Company in December 15th of 1899. Within a few years, we're founding members of MEMA. Maybe a little bit of a fun fact there. In 1909, we separated the company, and so we had a bearing company, which is today the Timken company, and then we also had a axle company that back then later became the Rockwell axle company, which then morphed into Meritor, and as we all know, more recently now part of Cummins. So there's a legacy there of the Timken company founded around ethics and integrity and quality. And so it's kind of become an iconic brand that resonates because of the quality, because of the ethics of the organization. And I think it's organizations like that MEMA kind of helps bring together. We talked about the Vision Conference. It's a perfect space to be able to dialogue and converse with other members that might be going through similar issues as we just mentioned.
I would add that, as Edgar mentioned, the heritage of Timken, starting with the bearing, the axle, and spinning that business off, and that heritage absolutely aligns with what MEMA's vision is in terms of advocating for business and advancing business. So I think those they run parallel, and it's enabled us to be successful in terms of where we are today. Today in the aftermarket, the Timken brand is a extremely strong brand, and absolutely enabled by organizations like MEMA. So we appreciate that support.
And like you said, they're there with you for changes, both short-term and long-term, and over 125 years, it's quite a bit of change.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I always try to describe the Timken company as a 125-year company that for the first 100 years, we manufactured one product, which was the tapered roller bearing. And if you go back to 1922, about 90% of the automobiles manufactured in the United States had a Timken tapered roller bearing. So over the years, the company has continued to evolve, expand, and go into new markets, which I think, organizations like MEMA help us understand where we need to go.
I'm just going to comment, if I could. 50 members came together in March 2nd of 1904, just up the road in the Holland Inn Hotel in Cleveland, Ohio, with a shared vision to work together, found that they were stronger together to help navigate and build this budding automotive industry. And I think Timken is a great metaphor, an example of the innovation, ingenuity, entrepreneurship of the aftermarket industry, and its survivability. If you look at the transformation of technology in this industry and the companies whose products are no longer relevant, and to see the way that Timken and others in the industry have made that transformation is amazing, really inspiring. And it just speaks to how fun it is to be in the automotive industry, for the record, and what we're able to achieve. I'd also note, I sit on the board, have the pleasure of sitting on the board of the Automotive Hall of Fame. And Henry Timken was inducted in the Automotive Hall of Fame in 1977 for the reasons that you mentioned, the innovation creation of the automotive, or the taper roller bearing, and even started as a carriage shop.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I found really interesting. But and there are others that joined Timken, and Henry Timken, the Automotive Hall of Fame, and it's just another example of how cool it is to be in the aftermarket and the relationship that we enjoy. And Goodyear was a founding member. And I think along the path they've been in and out of membership, but I think you're correct. We try to look back through the history that Timken has been a consistent member. I shared with Emma the other night that I've kind of been creating the history, doing some research on the history of MEMA, and I went through the minutes of the board meetings since 1904. And when you look at what suppliers did through the Depression and how membership actually grew during that period of time, and then some of the tools that MEMA helped create, for example, during the war years when the industry transitioned really to making military vehicles 100%, when they came out of that, all the new car production and the industry just exploded. Credit was a problem. Right, sure. MEMA helped create a platform that helped suppliers navigate being paid and just kind of a watchdog capability. And there are 100 stories like that.
I'm curious and I'm sure you've looked back, but if you look at associations similar to organizations similar to MEMA, not many have a shelf life. Not many have survived 100 years. I would imagine that you've looked at that and said, okay.
It's a terrifying responsibility.
But he's doing a great job.
So far. That's right.
So far, it's early yet.
That's right.
Well, I am curious, is there anything specific about MEMA that has been particularly valuable to Timken over the years?
Yeah, so I think you go back to the conversations around the forecast and the ability to be able to look at where the market trends are going, right? Where the vehicle park is, how it's evolving. I also find that the roundtable discussions, the Vision conference is very helpful in terms of being able to go in and share ideas with a lot of similar executives and other members of the automotive aftermarket industry, and not necessarily having to go and reinvent the wheel, no pun intended, right? But being able to understand how somebody else may be addressing those issues. So I think that they create that conduit to be able to give us that ability.
Yeah, I would add with Vision, again, I'm a big fan. When we go to Vision, you step back from the day-to-day things, and you're not, staring at your phone or doing emails or texting, and you really listen to some of the macro environment, what's going on. Really, really important to step back from that. And then you take that message back and work it into your strategy or tweak your strategy, whatever is necessary. So, we're like a lot of the value that we get out of the Vision conference is exactly that. Looking at the macro trends, how does that impact you long term, and what kind of tweaks do you need to make to your strategy to make sure you're around for another 100 years?
I would give you another example of, and Bill mentioned the marketing console. Right, and years ago we worked together on Know Your Part. It was a significant undertaking, but we worked together to try to improve that. It was something that helped benefited all the members and the customers.
So what I'm gathering from you guys is that communication is incredibly important, whether it's communication coming from Timken to MEMA or MEMA to Timken.
Well, and I'll just add, and Babcock's has helped. The relationship I think we've all had with Babcock's and the history, the relationship with Babcock's has helped us in that messaging. But we do a survey at the end of the year to get member feedback about what are the elements that are most valuable. And it fluctuates between number one and number two, but they're always the same. Number one is government advocacy. And the things that we're fighting for in Washington, D.C. and on a local level. But number two is thought leadership. And the Vision Conference is an example of that. And I think the caliber of people that MEMA has in our organization, again, that fact-based research that really help suppliers make decisions, has been, my humble opinion, a differentiator between what we do and maybe other organizations, the caliber of the thought leadership and the strength of our government affairs team. So I appreciate the confidence and support and things. Your feedback's important.
And over the years, our government affairs team has worked with folks like Ann Wilson, and it's been really important. As one voice as a Timken company, given our size, we're a larger corporation. Our voice doesn't go as far unless it's combined with others, and so really acting as an advocacy and that communication has been real key for us.
Absolutely.
Especially right now.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. I think the voice of one very different than the voice of over 1,000, right? So much more powerful.
Absolutely. So I am curious, how do you see MEMA impacting Timken and the other members that you've mentioned in the future?
Yeah, so I would start with saying to continue to evolve, right? I think MEMA, similar to Timken, we've done an excellent job of evolving and adjusting as the market does as well, right? So I think it's continuing to evolve and then continuing to be that single voice of all of its members. I think that is very powerful. We talk about the engagement and the communication, and helping us through these engagements develop the next line of leadership that will be in the industry.
I would add that advocacy, that for all of us is absolutely critical. So continue on that path.
I think Timken knows, maybe others, hope the industry broadly knows, but MEMA 2 years ago took some bold steps to position the industry and MEMA for the future and address the headwinds that we think the industry is facing for the future. I mentioned many of them, the uncertainty in clarity around those possibilities. And we reorganized, I'll say realigned MEMA to provide greater access to a lot of the value that we create, including town halls, particularly on the light and commercial vehicle side, and access to customers at high levels that further allow companies like Timken to expand their business and things. So we think MEMA is well prepared to serve the changing needs of the industry and particularly the supplier community going forward. And 12 years ago, MEMA did a landmark study called Aftermarket Outlook 2025. And I was going through that to kind of do an audit. How did we do? And directionally, a lot of the pillars were very the same. And we're now working on a landmark study that we'll share at Vision. So please, the community, please join and attend. And we're also doing landmark studies in the commercial vehicle side as well. So, and we've added a lot of resources to reinforce our government affairs capabilities. And of course, the digital transformation that we're all seeing, MEMA is keenly focused on serving members where they are. And I know Babcock's has been a showcase for being able to do that. And, we're still learning, we're catching up, but that's certainly a key focus for us, serving members where they are.
The only thing I would add is, Bill, for MEMA to survive 100 years, as Timken has survived 125 years, you have to change, right? So both organizations have demonstrated the capability to change, adapt to the market changes, and expect to see that in the future. So,
just to comment how true that is, when we presented this realignment of MEMA to the MEMA Board of Directors, I made the comment, the risk of change is less than the risk of staying the way that we are. And that we were advocating the courage that we all needed to take that next step. And I think we've shown a history collectively of the industry and with our two organizations of having the courage to change and make the transformation that's required. And that's certainly going to be key for the future, without question.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. We see your company's been around for 125 years. You're coming on 121. Without change, who knows where you'd be. And I know you have something that you would like to do.
yes, so for the viewership that knows Bill, this is probably the first time, like I, ever seen him without a tie on. In addition to that, he never has a hair out of place. So we would like to ask you, Bill, to don a Timken hat.
I'd be honored.
And you can take that home and when you yard work in Connecticut.
What do you think?
Looking good.
Looking really good.
I think I have a tie that'll match this.
It's 125 years of history on your head. So
Well, thank you for your membership. Thank you for your hat and the friendship
Yes.
that we've enjoyed over the years. And it's been a great time this morning.
And more to come.
More to come.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the conversation.
yeah, thank you guys so much. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.